What's up, my folks? Welcome in. It is Monday night, which you guys know by now. I hope I've trained you well enough. It is NBR. We got some folks loaded up already. NBR, what's it stand for? Nothing but rants. And I've got two great ones for you. I've been excited about this exact show basically since I woke up this morning and knew exactly what I was going to be talking about today. We'll give you my take on the NFL draft. It's not going to be the normal, post-draft show. Not going to talk fits. Don't really care. Don't really know, to be honest with you. If I could sit here and tell you exactly what Green Bay is running defensively, I don't think I'm doing my job as the film guy for Georgia. You follow me? I know what Georgia runs. I'm not as well versed into what Green Bay is running on a down in, down out basis. So am I going to sit here and give you a draft grade on Eric Stokes? No, it's not what I'm here for. I'm going to give you my take on the NFL draft and how I saw it as a Georgia writer and a Georgia content creator, saw it all go down. So we'll talk about that. We will, of course, do a Q&A at the end. I hope it's loaded up by the time we get to it. If not, that's fine. Feel free to, I know I always tell you to hold your questions to the end, but as long as you give me a question mark on there, I can be smart enough to scroll back up and, get to it. So appreciate you for being here. If you could, I know everyone's all over these YouTube, Facebook groups. Feel free, man. Share that link. Post it over there. While you're here, hit that thumbs up. That will vault our numbers. We get a bigger party in here. Maybe some other fan bases might show up and start a riot in the comment section. I'm cool with it. We welcome it. I have no wherewithal. I have no fear of flaming somebody up here in the middle of the show. So if that's what happens tonight, more the merrier. Again, feel free to hit that thumbs up button and share it wherever you want. If you got friends and family that might be interested in our content, feel free to send them over there. Before we get into our opener tonight, I do want to ask you, hey, man, I know most of the people right now that are probably in here earlier, there are diehard supporters. They're probably already on the Patreon subscription. But if you're one of the people that have ran across this video right now that is not already signed up for the Patreon service, please feel free to do so. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin. The link is in the bio. So I appreciate all you guys for being here tonight. Got a loaded show. I really only have two topics, but I honestly could go for about 30 minutes on each of these topics. That's how passionate I am about them. And that's what NBR is for. It is for me to unload, not necessarily fiery hot takes, but takes that I'm fiery hot about, if that makes sense. So let's start with this. I guess you could call it NCAA transfer portal madness that's going on. That's how I sold it. That's what it is. So we'll talk about it, and we'll start with a little story time with Brooks, okay? For those of you who don't know, yes, I did play college football. Not extremely high levels of college football, but I did. I'm very adamant in telling you that. It's probably a tick of mine. Very proud of my college football career, very proud of my football career in general. But my freshman year of college, my first year in college, I was absolutely buried on a depth chart for a program that I knew in my heart of hearts I was good enough to play for, even as a freshman walking in. That was my mindset. I'm 19 years old. I'm far more arrogant than I even am now. I know that's extremely hard to believe. If you followed me around and listened to my content, you might be one of these people that thinks I'm an arrogant butthole. You should have met me when I was 19. I was far, far worse. And I was ready to bounce out of that program. First year was absolutely ready to hit the road and go on. Okay, I 100% was. My offensive line coach, gone, left the program. Okay, he went up to another program in our similar level. Okay, my defensive line coach, the guy that saw me every single day go against his guys, he was gone. Both end up again at programs that could have used my services. So what did they do? Of course, this was before the NCAA transfer portal even existed, but player movement was still a possibility. You could leave if you wanted to. You might have had to sit out. If you went down a level, you didn't. There were just different rules back in the day. If your school didn't offer the major that you particularly wanted and the new school that you were going to did, the NCAA would grant you an immediate waiver. Little bylaws like this, little backdoor channels for you to get, eligible wherever you were going. So that's what they did. They would call me every 2 or 3 days, they would be calling me. Okay. They say, look, hey man, we got a starting spot for you day one. I know they're not really appreciating your services down there. They're not using your talents correctly, right? You should come join our program. We've got a starting spot for you day one. We've got a brand new fancy apartment for you, Brooks. Already got the lights turned on. It's fully furnished. We'll get you in it. Okay. We've got this. We've got that. Offers out the wazoo. Hear that, right? And I'm just some bum. I'm just some scrub. I'm not a 4-star, recruit coming out of high school that thinks immediately going into college that they're one of these players that's going to be 3 and done, right? For my next 3 or 4 years. That is the new thing now when these high school kids commit to whatever Power 5 program they're going to. For my next 3 to 4 years, okay? 10 years ago, it was for my next 4 to 5 years, I'm taking my talents to. Now it's for the next 3 to 4 years, okay? These kids have a plan, or at least they think they have a plan, and they want playing time now, right? Okay, so I'm just some scrub at a small middling D2 college that was getting these offers. Hey, come here, do this. We'll get you this. We'll get you that. Luckily for me, in my situation, cooler heads prevailed. I stuck it out. I wrote it out at the program that I was at. I went on to make, 44 of the next 48 starts along the offensive line over the next 4 years. I met my lovely wife, who we now have a child with, and I got 2 degrees along the way, which is what the whole goal is, right? For me, at least, it was about getting a college degree. It was very realistic about my expectations. That's where my story, if you will, is much different than these kids nowadays that we're talking about tonight. These guys that may or may not be leaving the Georgia program, or maybe leaving Ohio State, or leaving Clemson, or leaving Alabama, or leaving whatever these D1 programs they're at. My story's a little bit different than them, but I think the moral of the story for me still applies in most situations. For me, sticking it out, paying my dues, and earning my role 100% paid off. I would not be in my life where I am without, getting over that hurdle of denying that initial thought process of I'm not in the right place. Because here's the deal, guys. We're talking about 18, 19, 20, all the way up to 22-year-old young men who are very impressionable, right? They're might be more prone to second guessing than a full grown adult is. Their mind is still developing. They're still in a developmental state in their life. Okay, so they're very, very impressionable, and they are very likely to second guess what it is they're doing. And every single player that I ever talk to in the recruitment process, I will tell them that first thought in your mind that you're not in the right place, ignore it. And then when it comes back the second time, and when it comes back the third time, and when it comes back the fourth time, bury it again. Just stick it out. Get through the first year, denying all those negative thoughts, come back the next year and see what's going on. And then when they come back again, because they will, deny them once more, okay? It's really, really hard, especially now with the freedom that these players have, okay? And it's a lot of freedom. We'll get into some numbers right here. As I have to delete a message that popped up on my computer telling me to update. I don't feel like updating right now. I'll get to it later. Again, for me, sticking it out, paying those dues, paid off in, again, 2 degrees, a handful of college starts, and maybe some brain injuries to go along with it in the future. Hopefully not. I still got my wits about me. I can still freelance on most of this stuff. So hopefully it's still there. I don't know, though. We'll find out in about 20, 25 years. Fingers crossed for me. Y'all be praying for a brother. We'll see you in about 20 years. Anyways, in the last calendar year, I told you about player movement. It's at its all-time high in college football. In the last calendar year, according to my sources, we are nearly reaching the 2,000 football player mark, okay? 2,000 players almost have entered their name into the Division I transfer portal, okay? So just think about this, okay? 2,000. All right, just maybe even less than that, just a little. Let's call it a little bit less. Let's call it 1,500, 1,800, whatever it is, okay? Whatever the exact number is, because we don't exactly know at this point. There are 130 schools, guys, in Division I football. Okay, simple math. 130 times 85 scholarships available at those 130 schools. You're looking at just north of 11,000 scholarships available in Division I football. Per those numbers, right? Let's call it 1,800 and 11,000. 1,800 and 11,000. You're looking at about 15% of Division I football teams having players enter the transfer portal in one calendar year. Think about that. One calendar year. And if you followed me for however long you've been following me, you know I am king player movement. I am all about player mobility. I'm all about player freedom. It's what I preach. It's what I'm here for. It's what I choose to, die on that hill. I want guys to have that freedom, that to not be tied down to one decision that they made when they were 16, 17, 18 years old. That's not quite fair. But here's the deal. As much as I am here for player movement and player freedom, you got to understand that stuff comes with consequences. So you best be ready to accept those consequences, okay? And what that means is, look, there aren't very many Jameson Williamses out in this world. There aren't very many examples of that. where a player enters the transfer portal. I'm not talking about graduate transfers. I'm talking about players entering the transfer portal before they have their degree. I can think off the top of my head of one example of a Jameson Williams that goes from the high life at Ohio State, okay, the high life up there, and just moves to another example of the high life in college football in Alabama. There's one of those in my mind. It's the only one I can possibly think of. Okay, Rick Gilbert, eventually, whenever he decides, whatever he decides, he will be one of those players as well. That's two. That's two of maybe potentially 2,000 that we're sitting here talking about. So, in fact, the more common example and the more common result for guys that jump into this portal, from a program like Georgia or a program, one of these premier Power 5 programs, the more likely consequence is that you're, Trey Blunt, and you go from Georgia to I can't remember where he's. I think he's at Old Dominion. Look, Old Dominion, great program, okay, but yeah, he gets to play now, gets a good degree at Old Dominion too, but he left the cream of the crop to go live life at Old Dominion. And I'm sure if you ask Trey today, because I've spoken to him about it, it was a business decision. It was about getting on the field, and that's fine. But you have to know that you're going from life being catered as a Georgia athlete to life being catered as an Old Dominion athlete. And that's just Trey. Okay, those are guys leaving Georgia. Guys leaving Georgia are going to find a home. Okay, they will. It may not be the nicest home. It may not be the mansion that they're coming from, but they're going to find a home. They're going to be playing college football. Okay, those guys are a different set of circumstances than the guys leaving Texas State or the guys leaving even a school like Vanderbilt. First of all, why would you ever leave Vanderbilt? You got an amazing degree. Okay, you're either going to go from big school to much smaller school or worse. Big school or much smaller school to no school. Okay, there's only so many spots. There's only so many spots. And if you go from, the cream of the crop to no crop at all, was that a good decision? Probably not. Okay, but that's what you're weighing. That's what you're risking as a young adult. And I think the discussions of player movement, they're great, but nobody talks about the ramifications. Nobody talks about the examples of kids that just don't end up with a home. Go search through 24/7's nice little portal that they put up there, the self-reported portal. See how many of those kids, go back. See how many of those kids just didn't end up. Like, there's no update on them. They don't know where they went, because odds are they probably went JUCO, okay, lived out in Kansas, okay, or lived out in the middle of, armpit of Mississippi, okay. It's not the nicest life. It's the oldest cliche in the book, but cliches are cliches for a reason. The grass isn't always greener on the other side, okay. And again, I'm king mobility. I'm guy that wants players to be able to decide their own freedom. But I'm also the guy that's going to sit here and say, probably not the best decision. You might have should have rode that one out. Okay. And that obviously brings us to Major Burns, right? The news today of Georgia's what would be his backup safety, entering the transfer portal. And I find it really, really weird. I don't find it weird. I'm not naive. I find it weird that as soon as he hits the portal, there's articles from all the LSU sites of, oh, well, LSU's magically got one spot left and they need a safety. Okay, we'll get to that in just a second. But if y'all think these coaches ain't calling these kids before they enter their name officially into the portal, I got another thing coming for you. Okay, I got a whole nother thing coming for you. They talking to these kids. I promise you. Okay, I can't promise you because I'm not one of them. I don't know firsthand, but I know they're calling them. You ain't got to be in the NCAA transfer portal nowadays to be getting no phone call. Okay, that's pure facts. All right. But again, let's talk about Major Burns. If you came here expecting me to answer questions as to why, or having answers as to the question as to why a second string safety as a redshirt freshman would leave a program like Georgia and just enter the NCAA transfer portal, I don't have an answer for you. Okay, I'm sorry, I ain't got none of them. I ain't got a single answer. I ain't got an explanation. I have nothing as to why Major Burns decided to make this decision, other than that he thinks this is the best thing for his immediate and long-term future. That's fine. It's his decision. And quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if Kirby Smart's sitting in his office scratching his head too, going, what the heck? What more could I have done? Okay, what more could we have done to keep this kid happy? This is a kid that was one injury away, and it happened last year. He played against Florida, if you guys don't remember. Okay, it happened. He was one injury away this year from starting for the rest of the season. as one of the safeties at the University of Georgia. And for that matter, he was basically next in line to start in for the long-term future. Okay. What happened? I don't know. Again, I have no answers for you. But here's the deal. I have one answer for you. Welcome to what college football looks like now. Welcome. This is the future, guys. It is going to look like this for the rest of time until they figure out whatever's going on with this transfer portal. The idea of immediate eligibility, I'm cool with, but what it has done is it has taken a transfer portal issue that was a small ball of fire, okay, and it was slowly expanding every year. There's more and more kids every single year. And they said, oh, hey, by the way, now wherever you go, in conference, don't matter. Wherever you go, you get immediate eligibility. That small ball of fire, they threw gallons and gallons of gasoline on top of it. And that's all they did. Because now it's like, oh, well, I don't have to wait a year. There's really no penalty now. I can go. I can go right now. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. I had a coach tell me the other day, an SEC coach on staff told me that this is what college football is going to look like, and it's free agency moving forward. It's year in, year out free agency, player movement like you've never seen. Roster numbers going up and down, up and down, up and down. And Major Burns, from the people that I talked to, ain't the last one. Okay, he ain't the last one that's leaving the University of Georgia. Okay, and he probably ain't gonna be and Tyke Smith probably ain't gonna be the last one that comes in. Okay, because again, roster numbers got to go somewhere. They got to go up and down. If they go down, they gonna go back up. Okay, I find it hard to believe, and we were talking about this in the Discord today, and I didn't really give my opinion because I was saving it for the show. I find it hard to believe that Kirby Smart's just going to enter a season with 81, 82 scholarship guys on roster. Maybe he gives a scholarship to Jared Zirkle, the gray shirt from 2020. Maybe he gives a scholarship to Dan Jackson now that he is a backup at this point. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe these guys that were in-house that, stuck it out. Cameron Kinney, a center now, was a defensive lineman out of high school from the North Georgia area. Maybe they start giving these guys scholarships. And honestly, maybe it enhances the team culture at each individual school. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the best case scenario. But worst case scenario is every single spring, at the end of every single fall, writers like me got to sit on pins and needles and go, well, who's the next one? Who's coming now? Because we know somebody's coming. Okay. And again, I don't think Major Burns is going to be the last one. I really don't. It's not plausible to sit here when they extended the immediate eligibility timetable to July or June 1st. Okay. They got a whole nother month of this crap. Okay. Where guys are going to be weighing their options. Guys are going to be going back home, listening to, the aunt or uncle or mom or dad that's like, hey, maybe you should just come back home. LSU looks really, really nice, Major. Maybe you should come back home. Tyreek Stevenson. Miami looks really, really nice. Maybe you should. They're going to let you play. They need you. Okay, so why don't you just come home? Okay, sometimes going home ain't the best decision for you. Maybe it might be the best decision for mom or dad. Maybe the best decision for you is to learn those life experiences while you're there, like it was for me. Again, that was my story. My story was stick it out. Learn what it takes to sit behind somebody. Okay, because guess what? If you make it to the NFL, you're probably going to be sitting behind somebody unless you're a first-round draft pick. If you make it outside of life where you're trying to climb the ladder of corporate world, guess what? You're going to be sitting behind somebody. Guess what? You might not have a boss that you like. Okay, you might not have an immediate supervisor that you like. Guess what? You just got welcomed to life. Okay, and these experiences that you have in college, they will set you up for success moving forward in those life experiences. You will now know what it means to sit there and buy your time and wait your time. And this is coming from, again, in my line of work now, I am the most impatient person you will ever meet. Impatient. I am constantly asking for the next thing. What's the next thing? How can I move up this ladder faster? How can I get on ESPN and call a football game? How can I, I can't even get GPB to let me call a high school football game. I can't do it. I've sent emails everywhere. You know how frustrating that is, but it's okay. I understand that there is a guy named Rusty Manziel, who I respect the hell out of, that gets to call all these games. Guess what? He's been around 20 years and he's good at it. He's really, really good at it. So I got to wait my time. Okay. And I'm not just going to go to another market because the market's empty. Okay. I'm not going to go from the Georgia market because I want to call high school football games to move into Tennessee and just calling whatever football game. It's not the move. It's not, the best move for me long-term, just like I think the best move for Major Burns long-term probably would have been to wait that out And he wouldn't have had to wait that long. Okay, again, he's one injury away. He's one season away from that being your job to now lose, as opposed to that being your job now to steal or to earn from the guy in front of you. Okay, bro, absolutely, Rhett. Absolutely. I just saw that. Of course, I want to get in on that playoff action. I told him, you ain't even got to pay me, bro. I'll come in there and light the Bearways up. You ain't even got to pay me. Nah, I mean, seriously, I do think the discussion of ramifications need to be had. Okay, and every single one of these kids, believes in themselves fully, as they should. Again, most of these guys, especially ones that are leaving Georgia, they were extremely highly touted. Okay, they Major Burns was an LSU commit before he flipped to Georgia. I find it extremely hard to believe that nobody from that LSU staff has been talking to him since the year and a half he's been on campus. I'm sorry. You can say that I'm accusing them of it. Matter of fact, I think they all do it. Okay, it's just implausible for me to sit here and think that somebody's going to sit on their hands and wait for an official announcement of so-and-so entered the transfer portal. I find that very, very hard to believe, because most of the time when these kids do, especially these higher profile kids, they know that it's funny. They just pop up immediately. Yep, I'm going here. Yep, well, okay. So we didn't have any decision-making process there. We didn't wait it out. We didn't, really explore this quote-unquote free agency. No, that's not how it works. Most of the time it's, I'm leaving this school. I know exactly where I'm going. I'm going to wait it out, and we're going to go. Okay? So it's a mess. It is an absolute mess, and it's part of, I'm not going to say it's my fault, but it's definitely not my fault. But what I'm saying is it was my error in thinking that, oh, yeah, just let them go wherever they want. Yeah, make no punishment in terms of leaving a school. Maybe that was my ignorance. I think maybe what should have happened is, if you get that first 6 months you're on campus, if you've decided you made the wrong decision, you get to go for free. Okay, but otherwise, you're either going to have to wait out a year or you're going to have to graduate before you leave. I think that might be what needs to happen. Okay, because maybe Major Burns had these feelings in his first 6 months. And if that deadline, if you enroll in July, if that deadline becomes December for you to leave, well, you play your first year, you pay your dues, and then you get out of there. And maybe you have some player mobility that way. But man, it's gonna get much, much worse, I would imagine. Especially since this deadline has been moved to June. The deadline typically is May 1st. All the transfer portal news for the most part would have already been done. Now we got a whole nother month of waiting around and seeing what's going on here. So yeah, I'm kind of tired of that, but I'm well aware that this is our new life. This is new normal in college football. Again, for those of you who just jumped in, I had an SEC coach tell me the other day, we have entered free agency. It is going to be left and right. Guys leaving programs left and right. Okay. All over the landscape, everywhere. Let's take a break to let you guys know, hey man, hit that thumbs up. Okay. I've seen some numbers jump here. We will be taking your questions at the end here. We'll talk about you in a second, Rob. What about conditions, free transfers, such as coaching staff changes first 6 months of possibility? Yeah. I mean, that's another, it's a great point right here from Robert. While we're on the topic, we'll hit it. Yeah. I mean, there should be conditions for free transfers. If Kirby Smart up and leaves Georgia for another job, yes, you should be able to go. If your coach is able to go, he ain't got to sit out a year, then I fully agree with you that you should not either. Yeah, I mean, that just, they need to put some actual, and this is classic NCAA, they need to put some actual rules and regulations behind it. You can't just go, poof, open the gates and say, free for all. Everybody run around like a chicken with your head cut off, because that's what's going to happen. Everybody's running around like a chicken with their head cut off right now. And I don't think it's going to diminish the product of college football, but it's definitely going to diminish the loyalty on your own roster. Okay, so what I would advise you as the fan listening to this is, when Joe Schmo from Southeast Georgia commits to the Dogs, okay, just don't fall in love with them yet. Give it like 18 months. You follow me? Give it some time to make sure they're not one of these guys that's just up in the size the same for me. Okay, so then when it happens, you're not going to your Facebook group and calling the guy soft or a quitter or he never was a dog anyways, yada, yada, yada. Okay, y'all get far too fanatical, and I get it. It's fans, short for fanatical. I get it that you're very passionate about what you do and what you love and what you invest your emotional time in. I get it. But just remember, they are young, impressionable individuals, very young, impressionable individuals. So it may or may not be the right decision for Major Burns. Maybe he goes to wherever he goes and becomes a first-year starter and an All-American and all that good stuff. And matter of fact, I hope it happens for him. But odds are that's not what the case is going to be. If you are not a quarterback, okay, if you're not a graduate transfer quarterback or a standard transfer quarterback in the case of JT Daniels, we don't hear about you much, okay, after you leave your first school. I mean, maybe the comment section can help me out because I'm not that good at thinking on my feet. Throw some examples out. Try to find them off the top of your head of guys that left freshman, sophomore year, one program, and then immediately went to the next program and they found immediate success. Okay, the only one I can think off the top of my head right now is Otis Reese. And he's getting to play at Ole Miss. It's great. He's getting to play. But did he enhance his draft stock? Or what would have enhanced his draft stock dramatically was if Otis Reese was still on the roster right now, right? Because he would be competing for a starting job. J.R. Reed, great example. But guess what J.R. Reed did? J.R. Reed sat for a year at Georgia and really grinded it out, okay? And earned every bit of his playing time. And his was a case where he just thought he was too big for Tulsa, okay? That's one thing. He was getting playing time as a true freshman at Tulsa. That had nothing to do about a decision of I made the wrong choice. I'm not getting playing time. I'm mad at coach. Coach is a hater. He just don't like me. That wasn't the case. That was I played here as a freshman. I feel like I'm better than this. I'm going to go. I'm going to bet on myself. And that bet paid off. That's fine. Okay, we got Kelvin Joseph. I believe that's West Virginia, right? I think he plays for the Raiders right now. Devon Wilson. Yeah, step down, right? He fits into these categories of a guy that went from Georgia to UCF. Love UCF. Great program. Love that staff they're putting together down there. It's not Georgia, okay? And it's not always going to be Georgia when you leave a program like that. So, yeah, again, we got very few examples of the 2000s kids, right? 2000 kids that we're talking about here. Yeah, okay. Appreciate you, brother. Sorks? Says Sorks? Love that one. Now, this last quote-unquote topic before we get to Q&A just might be my favorite. I told you, look at it, 27 and a half minutes. I told you I can go for 30 minutes on either one of these topics because that's the whole point. Okay, they're not hot. They're not fiery hot takes. They're takes that I'm fiery hot about, right? Not happy with what's going on here and felt like we would, get after it right quick on MBR here on Nothing But Rants. So appreciate you guys for being here. But this last topic, I've been building this one up since 8 o'clock this morning when I got into the office. Okay, I've been putting this one together, shaping it, molding it, crafting it, get ready to drop it on your head. Okay, and it's called You Know What I'm Tired Of. And this is NFL draft related. I told you my NFL draft takes aren't going to be, I love the fit with Azeez Ojulari at New York Giants. Because guess what? I don't know nothing about the New York Giants. It ain't my bag. It's not what I study. I sit in here, watch about 10 to 12 hours a week of Georgia film. I ain't got no time to be breaking down NFL tape. As much knowledge as there is to gather there. The only New York Giants tape I watched all year was for Andrew Thomas. And that was for you guys over on Patreon, I believe it was. Maybe we did that one live. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But this is my NFL topic for you tonight. And again, it's called You Know What I'm Kind of Tired Of. I am sick and tired of seeing quote unquote fans of a program sit back on their little Twitter fingers on draft day and rejoice at the idea of someone that left their beloved program and just absolutely relishing in the fact that they're dropping down draft boards all because they left early. I am tired of it. And it's not all of you. In fact, it's not even most of you. It's a very select few of you. So if you're one of those people that rejoiced in Trey Hill falling down boards, if you're one of those people that rejoiced in DJ Daniel going undrafted, I've got something for you right now. So stick around, Mr. and Mrs. Revisionist History, because I got something for you. Okay. There are a handful of names that every single year during the NFL draft process, every single year, when in January, we start to talk about guys that are leaving early for the NFL draft. Every single year, I get one of two comments, okay? Oh, he's the next Elijah Holyfield. Oh, just ask Jake Fromm how that decision paid off for him, et cetera, et cetera. There are a list of names every single time that I get, and never, ever, ever do I get context behind any of these decisions. So I'm going to lay some context on you right now. Let's start with Elijah Holyfield. He's the one I hear about all the time. Oh, he shouldn't have left Georgia. He went undrafted. Well, let me get this straight. Okay. Let me get this 100% straight. You wanted Elijah Holyfield, a career second fiddle player, a career guy that was always at least number 2, never number 1 in a backfield at the University of Georgia. You wanted him to return to 2019. You wanted him to return to Georgia in 2019. For what? So he could sit behind guys like, DeAndre Swift, Zamir White, Kenny McIntosh was back in that year. Brian Herrien, 4 guys in that backfield. Okay. And guess what? Revisionist history, Brian Herrien, perfect example. Okay. What did it serve Brian Herrien to return for a 4th year at the University of Georgia? What did it do for him? Okay. Yeah, he got a degree, but I've already squashed that one for you. If you are a scholarship football player in Division I athletics or a scholarship player in general, guess what you get to do if you declare early for the draft in your sport? You get to come back and finish your degree whenever you want. So don't bring me that one. Oh, you got a degree. Great. You got a degree. Okay. You could have gotten a degree whenever. So that's a prime example. They were in the same exact boat, Elijah and Brian, facing, a gamble on themselves in the NFL draft after a junior year, or come back and fight for carries at your own school. Come back and maybe improve your draft stock by getting a minuscule portion of the carries and the touches in a backfield that was loaded at Georgia. So did he make the wrong decision, or was the decision? I mean, coming back for a 4th year served no purpose for Brian Herrien, still went undrafted. Okay. I think the same thing would have happened for Elijah, because coming back for a 4th year doesn't really change much in terms of his NFL draft process. It wouldn't have. He was coming off a career year, which brings us to our next guy, Isaac Nada. I hear this one thrown at me all the time. And get ready, I got like 6 of these dudes. Isaac Nada, every single year, Isaac Nada's name gets brought up because, former 5-star, ended up a 7th round draft pick, left early, terrible decision, Isaac. Was it? Another year of college football ain't making Isaac Nada run a sub 4.9 at the NFL Combine in the 40. I promise you that. You ain't just magically getting faster because you spent another year in college. Matter of fact, you might have even gotten slower. Body ages, skill sets diminishes just a hair fraction every single year as you get older, as we all do. Okay. So he ain't magically getting faster, which is what mainly hurt his NFL draft process. He was a 7th round pick in the year of 2018 after an absolute career year at Georgia. He had 30 catches for 430 yards, an average of 14.3 yards per reception. Okay. An absolute career year. Best by far, hands down. In 2019, the next year, the football team that he would have played for, Georgia's tight ends combined for 22 total receptions. And I know what you will say is, well, if Isaac was there, he was going to get most of them. And I would counter with, that's fine. They were still an extremely anemic passing offense in 2019, Jake Fromm's last year, who we'll get to next. Okay, so even if he did return, how many of those 235, 240 yards a game was he actually getting? Because I'm willing to say, based off of the track record in 2018 to the dip off in 2019, he probably wouldn't have even had as a good of a year. And now he's a descending player in terms of production, leaving college football. So maybe instead of a 7th round draft pick, he goes completely undrafted. Because guess what? The combine measurables weren't getting any better. They weren't going to suddenly improve. And guess what? His production rate, like I just laid out to you, most likely wasn't going to improve. So what's your argument? Why should Isaac Nada have returned? Here's the answer. He shouldn't have. And guess what he's doing now? He's playing for the Green Bay Packers, and he's having a relatively good NFL career. Okay. He is now, on the doorsteps of meeting NFL retirement, which is $250,000, $300,000 the remainder of his life. Okay. In retirement benefits. He's doing okay for himself. He did not make a bad decision. He made the right decision by all accounts. Okay. Jake Fromm, another guy. And I will tell you that Fromm got some bad advice. Okay. He did. They were expecting a late 2nd to middle of the 3rd, back into the 3rd round draft pick. That was the intel that they got. And for 100% fact, that was bad intel. That was not good information that he received. Wherever the information came from, I don't know, but he fell like a rock in that NFL draft. However, Jake Fromm's NFL draft projection wasn't going to change for a 4th year in college. What again, with the same thing with Isaac, was a 4th year in college suddenly going to make Jake Fromm a 4.7 40 runner? Was it suddenly going to make him, have this magical arm that was just popping with extra life? Or was he just going to be Jake Fromm? Okay, even a national title run, even a national title, national championship run would not have changed or mislabeled Jake Fromm as the quote unquote game manager that everyone knows and believes he truly is. Okay. And you can bring me Joe Burrow. That's fine. Joe Burrow is so far and so much superior of an athlete than Jake Fromm is. And if you don't believe me, turn on the tape. Okay. So that example is hogwash. I don't ever want to hear it. Don't bring me, oh, Jake Fromm was Joe Burrow was a 5th round draft pick before his final year. He was projected to be in the 5th round and he was the first pick overall. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. That's 100% fine. Also set every single passing record there ever was in the history of college football. Same thing for Mac Jones for the most part. Everyone's going to say, well, he was a 5th round draft pick for this year, 15th overall. That's good. That's fine. Now there's 2 of those, and they both almost won the Heisman. Well, one of them did win the Heisman. The other one almost did. Okay. Instead, his receiver won the Heisman. Okay. So those examples, they don't apply to Jake Fromm. They don't. Okay. And perfect. Mike, thank you for jumping in here. Did Jake Fromm really make a bad decision, guys? Fromm signed a 4-year, $3.7 million contract, including a $302,000 signing bonus with the Bills on May 7, 2020. Hey, that don't sound like too bad of a deal to me. Okay, so I think he got the better end of that one. So take the Jake Fromm discussions out of this one. Now, my favorite of all of these, Riley Ridley. For some reason, Riley Ridley's name gets thrown around in this, like Riley Ridley would have been some mythical first-round draft pick had he returned to Georgia. Absolutely my favorite one of these. Oh, he should have returned. Riley Ridley was taken with the 126th overall pick in the 4th round of the 2019 NFL draft. Does anybody, and I mean anybody, remember, and I know it's just a short time ago, does anybody remember what happened in that 2019 or 2020 NFL draft? Excuse me. Anybody? It was quite possibly the deepest and best wide receiver class the NFL's seen in the last 2 decades. Let me read off some names to you. Okay. Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk. All 6 win the 1st round. Let's go to the 2nd round. T. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr., Laviska Shenault, KJ Hamler, Chase Claypool, Van Jefferson, Denzel Mims, all went in the 2nd round. Brian Edwards from South Carolina went in the 3rd round. Devin Duvernay out of Texas went in the 4th round, or 3rd round, excuse me. And then Gabriel Davis went with pick 128, the 16th receiver off the board. 16th receiver off the board in that draft, the one that you wanted Riley Ridley to come back for, okay, went 128. 16 receivers. What would have happened to Riley Ridley? Riley Ridley, I mean, where in that list, guys, honestly? And you could say, well, he's going to have a great year. Okay. Well, he has a great year and he jumps over maybe what, Brian Edwards? Because I don't know if y'all remember what Denzel Mims did to Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, but dude was bona fide. He was 100% bona fide and was a 3rd round draft pick. So you're risking whatever it is to maybe move up 5 or 10 spots. And the risk is what we're going to talk about here in just a second. And I hope, for the love of God, you guys do not take this in a distasteful manner. Okay, I really hope so. But those are the guys that I hear all the time. Trey Hill, same example. Everybody tells me he left too early, which is fine. But I would counter with the fact that Trey was a diminishing player in his college career. He 100% was. His freshman year looked great at guard in the limited time that he played. His sophomore year, one of the best centers in the SEC, so much so that he was a first-team preseason all-SEC player heading into the 2020 season this year. Preseason all-SEC, first team, not Ben Cleveland, Trey Hill, because the sophomore tape was that good. Junior tape, starting to go downhill. And you could say, might have been because he had some banged-up knees. He did have both of them scoped, Brooks. That's fine. We're still a descending player, right? We are getting worse through college. So if we're doing this, what makes you suddenly think a 4th year in college would make your prospects do that? It's not plausible. It's not realistic to expect. So did Trey Hill make a bad decision? You might think that because you see 5th round draft pick. You see heading to Cincinnati. I see Cincinnati being a rather good spot for an interior offensive lineman. They need a lot of them. They didn't draft too many highly rated ones or highly ranked ones. They didn't invest a whole lot of capital in them, is what I should say, in the NFL draft. I see a good spot for Trey. Okay. I see a guy that might have a chance to, do what Solomon Kinley did last year. Another guy that people told me did the wrong thing. Another guy, right? Solomon Kinley shouldn't have left early. Well, 1st year starter, would have been all rookie. If they had an all rookie team, would have been all rookie at Miami as a guard. So I say all that to say that when you get out here and you do they left too early, yada, yada, yada. They're a 4th-round draft pick, garbage, dog water, should have came back. Okay. Where's your context? Because I just gave you 20 minutes of context. Bring me context if you're going to criticize young men for betting on themselves, because that's all they're doing. Okay. Your whole life, my whole life, you got good parents. My child, he will get the cliche. You can do whatever you set your mind to, right? How many people in this world, whether it be your coach, your parents, your brother and sister, whoever was most impactful in your life, your grandparents, I guarantee you they told you can do whatever you set your mind to. Gamble on yourself every single time you get the opportunity to. I'm taking a huge gamble on myself pretty soon, a very massive gamble on myself. Okay. It's what we ask our kids to do. It's what we ask our loved ones to do. It's what we tell them. It's like, and in a lot of cases, what we demand of people, gamble on yourself. So don't be out here doing the, oh, well, he should have done it. He should have came back. Appreciate you, Dawson. Appreciate you for subscribing. We'll throw that one out there on the comments. Appreciate you, my bro. You will not regret that one. I promise you. It's a bunch of good people over there. Don't come in with thin skin though. Promise you. Okay. So just come in ready to be toughened up. Like a brand new football that needs some rubbing before it's thrown around. Anyways, now, revisionist history, I got something for you. It does work both ways, right? And again, I told you, I don't want this to come out in bad taste, but it is the facts. Okay. Well, it's as close to facts as we can get because it is projection. Again, I do not mean this in bad taste, but if Richard LeCounte leaves a year ago, if Richard LeCounte leaves Georgia a year ago as a junior, he might be a 2nd-round draft pick. Hell, he might have been a 1st-round draft pick a year ago. But he returned to Georgia. We know what happened with the accident. He goes out, has a less than impressive pro day, and now he's a 5th-round draft pick. Okay? So it does work both ways. If you're going to hate on the Elijah Holyfields of the world, okay, if you're going to call them whatever, okay, that's what it is. It's not you cannot live your life with the idea of, oh, I might get hurt. Okay, you can't have that, especially not as a football player. But it is facts. Okay, revisionist history works both ways, and I love Richard LeCounte. But the fact of the matter is, had he left last year, not knowing anything, and I know hindsight's 2020, but isn't that what you're doing? Isn't that what you're doing when you're criticizing a decision that a kid made in January based off the results that happened in April? Neither is right. Okay, neither is right, which is why it shouldn't even be brought up. And that's why I spent 40 minutes on it. All right, let's get into some Q&A. I know I sent lightning bolts up into the house. I'm sorry. It is what it is. But I was just trying to prove a point. The point is, don't be doing the hindsight 2020 revisionist history crap. It ain't worth it. Okay, it ain't worth it based off what a kid decided in January of 2021. In 2021 and the results of this past weekend. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Okay. Let's get some Q&As. I know we got a whole bunch of people in here. So if you want to start firing off questions, let's get after them. Okay. We got about 20 minutes. I'll run these as long as I can. I'll try to be a little bit quicker. I know sometimes I end up spending about 5 minutes on each question. I will try to avoid that tonight. Let's pull the StreamYard over here. Get rid of the show notes. He mad about that retirement home joke I popped on him. I bet you guys. All right, y'all quit talking back and forth and start throwing off some questions. Oh, here we go. We got one right here. Do you think DJ Daniel make the right call? The idea of the additional year, right? The idea of the NCAA giving everyone an additional year. Maybe DJ Daniel's body wouldn't have held up for another year of college football. Maybe. I don't know. I know it was breaking down this year. He dealt with a ton of injuries this year at Georgia. So yeah, I don't know. You could say that, oh, well, DJ should have came back because he would have been a starting corner at Georgia. He would have got a whole lot more reps. I'm here to tell you that he was a starter at Georgia for all of 2019 and played exceptionally well. So the tape didn't change anything for Daniel's, draft performance. Maybe another year would have. Again, that's the whole revisionist history type stuff right there. Okay, you want to get over false information. Chill out, Justin. Let's see here. Oh, quit sucking my teeth. My bad. Hey, Rick Gilbert, what's your feel? I think it is either return to LSU or come to Georgia. I think those are the only two options that I've heard of. Last I checked, the last bit of information is over on my Patreon, patreon.com/Brooks Austin. You thought. I'm just kidding. But seriously, it's all up there. We've already talked about that well in advance and pretty well in depth. Let's see here. Possible people to leave early next year. It's a long list next year, especially, you know how this works. If you end up, it changes, right? Do you win a national title at Georgia or do you not? Okay, those two questions will change everything, or the answer to those two questions will change everything in terms of who leaves and who stays. If you win a national title, I think you see a lot of what happened at Alabama this year. Mass exodus, because the goal has been accomplished. But in terms of guys right off the bat, Nakobe Dean and Trayvon Walker in that junior class, you got to think of defensively. They're NFL talents. Okay, they 100% are. Same thing with George Pickens. You got to look out for him offensively, and then JT Daniels. Right, those are the four guys that I would think juniors. Off the top of my head, I would think like, hey, especially three of them. I think JT Daniels, George, and potentially Nakobe, especially with how fast he's finishing his degree. I think those are the guys that, like, off the top of my head, I can be like, yeah. Well, why come back? Kind of stuff like that. So there we go. You can have one big year and 4 and be a first rounder, Brooks. That's fine. Okay. You can have that one big year, but that's a big gamble to say, oh, well, I ain't done it for 3 years, so I'm going to come back despite having a third or fourth round grade, and I'm betting on that big year. Okay. It's nice and easy to sit here and say that, but when $3 million signing bonus in the third round is getting waved around, discussions get a little bit different. You feel me? Nice and easy to sit here and say that kind of stuff, but it always happens. Okay. It always happens when we sit in here and we're not the ones getting the money thrown at us. I promise you right now. No offense, Discord. No offense, Patreon. But if someone throws the bag at me with an offer, we out, baby. I got a family to feed. You know what I'm saying? I got a family to feed up in here. So, yeah, I'm not into that one. Let's see here. With the DB room thinned out, what's the situation looking like at corner, Brooks? Same thing. I mean, the corner room didn't change with Major Burns heading out. He was a safety. So, and even if another guy leaves that's not in that top 5-6 mix, probably ain't getting on the field anyways. So those are the guys that are going to be leaving Georgia's program in the future. Those are the guys you should be looking out for. If you're 4th and 5th on this depth chart at Georgia, there's probably no life for you here. You know what I'm saying? So why not? I'm here for that. Again, I'm here for you if you're doing that. If you're 5th, 6th, 7th down on the depth chart at corner, they only really play 3 in terms of true outside corners. Okay, they'll play 2 stars and they'll play 2 safeties. Okay, safeties don't rotate at Georgia. Over the last couple of years, think about it. Unless there's a blowout happening, J.R. Reed and Richard LeCounte were back there. And then the last year, it was J.R. Reed and Lewis Cine. Or excuse me, Richard LeCounte and Lewis Cine. And then when Richard went down, it was Chris Smith and Lewis Cine. Ain't a whole lot of rotating going on back in that back end. There's just not. So if you're 5th, 6th, 7th, down that depth chart, midway through your junior year, midway through your sophomore year, guess what? They're bringing more in too. So, yeah, I mean, I'm here. I'm okay with that 100%. Let's see here. My take, Tyke Smith will be an absolute baller in UGA's defense. Opinions on him. Yeah, I've already done a full video breakdown on that. I think he's going to be the bona fide star for Georgia. I was talking to a guy the other day about this. Georgia recruits 2 types of star defenders. Okay, 5'11", 205 pounds, absolute sticker, right? Can come downhill and light you up in the alley, can set the edge, can take on tackles in the run game if need be, can just be a dog out there at star. And then there's the guy. So that body type kind of looks like Devon Wilson. That body type looks like Tyke Smith. Over the last couple of years, they've been playing guys like Mark Webb and Tyreek Stevenson, right? These super long, athletic, explosive athletes that can guard tight ends and do stuff like that. So there's 2 body types at that position. Tyke Smith fits the first of those. Let's see here. Does your shirt say fish nipple? No, it actually says fish hippie. Fish hippie. My mother-in-law bought this one. Shout out, Gail. What other transfers do you think we get this offseason? Look, man, I've told the Patreon folks this one. Kirby Smart and this Georgia staff not just going to be out here taking guys to fill roster spots. Okay, it's just not what they're about. If they've got 3 spots, available in this year's class, maybe they sign a 28-player class like Alabama did and still miraculously have room for Jamison Williams. You follow me? That's how we got a debate today in the Discord about, oh, well, you don't see this kind of roster movement at Alabama. The hell you don't. How do you think they signed 28 guys in a high school class? They got the scholarship room for it, right? You're only supposed to sign 25, but when you have mass exodus from the bottom half of your depth chart, you've got scholarships available. They don't just go to the wayside. That's not how they work. They don't just Title IX roll over to the women's sports. That's not how that works. They will absolutely find folks in there. SSL, do me a favor and scroll up through these. Make sure I'm not missing any. Tag me in the bottom as I get to them, okay? Okay, Brooks. If Georgia only takes impact players out of the portal, people keep leaving. Does that mean they leave empty slots? It's kind of what we just talked about. You've seen Alabama have empty spots. And, guys, we're not talking about 10 scholarships, right? We're talking about maybe they had 1 available. Now they have 3 available. Maybe now they have 4 available, whatever it is. I just don't think that, and that's something the NCAA is going to have to do, especially for bigger programs like Georgia. You're going to have to relax some of these hard cap on 25s. Obviously, they've already done it for Alabama, 28 scholarships and the transfer this year, 29 technically counting in this class. They've made room for 29 new additional roster spots. So they're probably going to have to lax up on programs like Georgia. Otherwise, Georgia's going to be taking on basically the equivalent of an NFL 10-day contract kind of guy, or a buyout clause kind of guy where you just add them onto the roster just for depth. I will tell you, Georgia doesn't want to do that, but if that's the situation that the NCAA forces them into, then they're going to have to, right? You always need bodies, that kind of stuff. Let's see here. You are talking about all position. What do we got here? What will O-line look like week 1 against Clemson? Clemson tied for the most team sacks last year, I believe. Yeah, they're like, so we made that joke on the live stream during the spring game. Like, everyone's like, oh, well, making a whole bunch of excuses for that offensive line. Well, of course they can't block Georgia's defensive line. Georgia's defensive line got one of the best defensive lines in the country. Well, if Georgia don't have the best, guess who does? Clemson. And guess who you face week 1? Clemson. So I think you got to go into it expecting them to play the way they opened this spring. Kirby is a hound for experience. That's what he loves. He absolutely loves in-game experiences, guys that have been on the roster and are ready, and are 100% confident in their playbook, not going to have any type of mental assignment bust, any stuff like that. So if that's the case, you have to expect them to kind of start the way that they finished the spring, which I've said from day one was Truss at left tackle, Jamari Sawyer at left guard, Warren Erickson at center, Justin Schaefer at right guard, and Warren McClendon at right tackle. I think 4 of those guys are shoo-ins to start. Justin Schaefer, Warren Erickson, Warren McClendon, of course, Jamari Sawyer. Whoever plays the other tackle spot, whether it's Jamari Sawyer playing tackle, which you guys know I'm not fond of. Jamari's an NFL guard. He's not an NFL tackle. Let him play guard. Whoever wins that tackle spot wins that tackle spot. If it ends up having to be Jamari Sawyer, then maybe you have to figure out whatever you're doing interior-wise. That means moving a young guy inside instead of outside. It's still a long way away. I mean, camp's going to go a long way into determining who actually wins that job. Georgia versus Clemson should be the game of the week. Who you got winning, or game of the year, in my opinion? Who you got winning? Too early for me, man. I'm not. As much as I give hot takes, as much as I give my opinion, way too early for me to be out here giving sound clips and sound bites for Clemson fan bases. I don't really. It's way too early because something happened. I mean, look how many injuries Georgia had in spring practice. Okay, fall camp gets ramped up even more. Okay, if a major injury happens, it's going to change that landscape of that football game immediately. And I know what you'll say. Well, you'll give me the pass. I won't give myself the pass because it's ignorant to sit here in May and try to predict a football game that's going on in September. In my opinion, if you want to do that, that's fine. That's not my bag. It's not what I'm doing. With the DB room thinned out, what's the situation like? We already hit this one. My bad. Golly, StreamYard be jumping my stuff around. Do you think the O-line will find its mojo? I think, man, like to expect them to come out week 1 and look amazing, that's a bit of a stretch. So let's say week 4, week 5, because that's what happened last year. If y'all remember, they looked awful against Arkansas. I mean, terrible. Week 2, they came back against Auburn and pushed them jokers around the field. So maybe that's something that you got going on. Is Dicko slacking on his responsibilities? Nope. I give Dicko NBR nights off. There's no sense in him sitting in here going through this stuff when it's just me and a mic and me running my mouth. I almost prefer him not to be here because it's just he's back there and he's right in my line of sight, and it's hard for me to really get going and get hot like I always do up in here. I'm sweating, guys. I am sweating because of how juiced up I was about these topics tonight. Do you see any QB or running back specific packages? K-Mac, K. Milton, or Brock? No. It would be a little bit different if Brock Vandagriff was 6'6" and looked like Cam Newton. Okay. At that point, yeah, maybe you get him some design short yardage runs. That's not what Brock is. Brock is an athlete that can create with his legs. He's not a guy that I would be out running quarterback power with. especially considering his injury history in the past. So all stuff that he played through, but still banged up throughout his high school career. So let's not just run him like we did Justin Fields. That always ticked me off, the thing with Justin Fields, where it's just like, oh, well, we're going to appease you by running you out there and basically making you an option quarterback. To me, that was more of a spit in the face. I didn't like that at all. If you're going to let the kid play, let the kid play. Whether it be in blowouts, let him actually run the offense like other schools do, like Clemson does, like Georgia or like Alabama does. Clemson hanging up damn near 70 points on Georgia Tech. Their punter was throwing passes. Okay, Georgia does downset hut 3 times, hands the ball off, and punts when they're up 21 points in the second half. It's a whole different animal. Kirby's an amazing defensive back coach, no doubt about it. But do you think he will ruin the offense like he did before? No, I do somewhat believe him when he says he's giving it over to him. Okay, when he says you're paying Todd Monken's like the 3rd or 4th highest paid offensive coordinator in the country. Let that dude do his job. I think he proved to everyone, including Kirby Smart last year, that he's more than willing or more than capable of absolutely running a light show, a laser show on the offensive side of the football. Brooks, rank your 5 current Georgia players regardless of class. Jalen Carter, number 1. He'll be a top 5 pick. He will be the best position player that comes out the year he's out. Y'all know how I feel about that one. And then I probably go Daniels, Davis, Jordan Davis, that is. Not that there's another Davis worthy of this discussion. George Pickens in there at 4. And then 5, probably go Nakobe Dean. So there you go. James Cook and Zamir White, not Samir, even though Samir White's probably a bad ace football player too, are going to be solid. Where's the love at? I got love for him. 100% do. I'm infatuated with Kendall Milton. And you guys know that by now. We need to get you a fan out there in that thing, bro. I'm good, bro. I'm good. We're all right. We'll be okay. You think it's a great year for Monken? There's any way he's in Athens next year? Very hard to see it with a great year. Look, man, Monken's the type of guy that's been up and down his whole career. He's been kind of bouncing around. He's kind of a nomad, honestly. Like, he's an offensive genius that's a nomad. I don't think he gets comfortable sitting around in one spot. I think he always wants a new challenge. It's part of what makes him great. But every man has his price. If $2 million, I mean, it's basically what Clemson's been doing to Brent Venables since he's been there. I mean, Brent Venables makes more money than 90% of college coaches in Division I football. So there's always a way to keep him around. Does that mean he's going to stay if he gets another OC job in the NFL or potentially a head coaching job? I don't know. I don't know Monken. I really don't. I've studied Monken. I know his offensive tendencies. I don't know what that dude is like. I know he's a workaholic. I know he's super energetic on the recruiting trail. I know kids love talking to him. He was the sole reason, according to the people that I talked to, not sole reason. He's 90% of the reason that Denial and Morissette's going to Georgia. Todd Monken sold Denial and Morissette on Georgia, not Cortez Hankton. Cortez Hankton got him interested. Todd Monken sealed the deal. Okay, so he is energetic on the recruiting trail, which is number one thing if you're going to stick around in college football. So, yeah, potentially. Or maybe there's a mass exodus on the coaching staff as well. Kirby Smart will be prepared for that. I do believe they have their offensive coordinator in waiting. His name's Buster Faulkner. He's a really good football coach. He's put up a bunch of points in a Southern Miss football team that was in the pits of college football hell. Okay, what freshman wide receiver sees the field the most? It's Adonai Mitchell. That's easy. I don't see Jackson Meeks really getting on the field very much at all next year. It's just too deep for anybody other than Adonai Mitchell to get in there. Or Adonai. I'm going to call him AD. It's Adonai Mitchell, according to the announcer at Stanford Stadium. So we'll roll with that one. Adonai. You see Jelon Ballard getting decent playing time this year. I know you're big on him. I am big on Ballard. He proved it. He proved exactly why I was big on him. I know the OGs saw the video breakdown I had on him, when he committed back, I think it was last October or whatever it was. Dude's physical and does not care. Has very little regard for his own body. And if you're going to be a 5'10", star, I don't even think he's 5'10", honestly. I think he's listed at like 5'11", 5'10", but he don't look that big. He might be 5'9.5", whatever it is. Yeah, he's a dog. He throws his body around everywhere, and that's what it takes to play that position. He's got a ways to go, though, playbook-wise, and he's going to be behind Tyke Smith and, for that matter, I believe Latavius Burnett. So there you go. What can you tell us about Buster Faulkner? One of your best quarterback recruiters there is. Kids love him. Kids absolutely love talking about him or talking to him. And like I said, he was putting up loads of points. Southern Miss, and they specifically, I mean, Monken's first hire was to bring that guy in. So if there's anybody that knows his background and knows of him, it's definitely him. Also, can we get an actual photo of Monken for the SEC Network? Not my call. But I guarantee if I was on that call, I'd have been like, yo, guys, that's not him, man. That's not him. They should have been able to definitely point that out. Just got a random question of Bowers, question mark. Yeah, Bowers is going to be a dude. He is a dude, okay, who will start at left tackle. Probably Xavier Truss, and then maybe Broderick Jones, maybe Jamari Sawyer, maybe even Amarius Mims. Who knows? Position battle starts all over again in August. There's going to be some battles this summer. They'll do some, competition stuff. But as Kirby has said throughout his time at the University of Georgia, it's all a bunch of fugazi stuff until them shoulder pads and helmets come on. It's all fugazi. None of it matters. If Justin Robinson can keep the train rolling, he'll be a star absolute gamer. I believe you on that one as well. Sorry about this, Jeremiah Torres. I missed this one. Appreciate you, Andrew, for getting this one to us. What do you think of Devontae Smith? I don't care about the weight. Anybody that can play 4 years in the SEC and, from my knowledge, not have any type of injury, let alone a major injury, that dude's body's held up right now. Up to this point, what makes you think it's not going to hold up moving forward? I've always been, infatuated with guys that may or may not run really fast 40s, but game speed. Game speed is very, very important to me. When I turn on the tape, are you being caught? Are you running away from people? And do you have big playability, especially in the SEC, right? If we're projecting you to the NFL, there is no league in this country faster than what's on the field in the SEC. So if you can run away from them jokers, you can run away from folks on Sundays too, for the most part. I mean, I haven't seen anybody that's been extremely explosive. Cam Newton was still being really, really physical his first 4 or 5 years in the NFL, and he was dominant at Auburn. Okay, same level of dominance, in my opinion, if not more, than what Devontae Smith put on board. So, I think Devontae, to me, is the smoothest of targets, in wide receiver targets that Alabama's had. Okay, Ruggs and Waddle had their own little bag, right? Super linear athletes, extremely fast with the ball in their hands. Judy was this really creative, crafty route runner, whereas Devontae was a little bit of both. Devontae ran away from folks all the time in the SEC this year. Will probably do the same in the NFL. I compare a guy, if you go back and look at Jerry Rice, and I know this is a big one. So let's start with Marvin Harrison. If you go back and look at Marvin Harrison was not a big dude. Marvin Harrison was very, very skinny, if you will. Jerry Rice the same way. Jerry Rice probably played NFL football at 180 pounds. Okay, maybe. So what's the difference? If Devontae Smith year 6 is 178 pounds, up from 166 pounds, what are we talking about? Why are we going to sit here and downgrade a kid because maybe he's not 210 pounds or whatever it is? Not for me. Do you think Ringo is going to be a starter week 1? Hard to tell right now because I'll be honest with you, I wasn't like, and it's hard because when you come into college with this level of expectations, I wasn't like extremely impressed with Ringo in the spring game. And I know that sounds, hypercritical, but here's why. And I didn't expect to see a whole bunch from him. The guy hadn't played football in a year and a half at this point. Okay, he got to Georgia, had the labrum surgery, set out, didn't practice, got to practice a little bit. I mean, run around probably a little bit, never hit, maybe during bowl season. Okay, and then got into spring practice. And from my accounts and from my sources, was in a black jersey literally all the way up until basically the week of the scrimmage. That guy shouldn't look good on a football field. He hadn't played football in 18 months, so I didn't expect to see anything there. I'll let you know come camp. If the rave is all about Keely Ringo, then yeah, he probably will start. Brooks Austin, what are the 3 biggest muskets? We got this one in the Discord earlier today. Mykel Williams 3 times over. I'm higher on him than even I believe the Georgia staff is from people I talk to. I think Mykel Williams is out of Hardaway High School down in Columbus. I think he's the closest thing that the class of 2022 has to offer in terms of maybe he turns into Chase Young. Maybe he turns into Chase Young. If there is one guy I'm betting on in the entire country that might be that guy, it's Mykel Williams. He is freakish. Okay. And I am biased because I've seen him up close and personal so many times. I do know the kid. I know where he's from, what he's about, that kind of stuff. So it makes me a little bit partial to some of these kids that I cover. But guess what? I was the same way about Jermaine Burton, and I don't think anybody could say I missed on that one. So, I think Mykel Williams won. Kamari Wilson, love that kid. Love his game. So I think maybe him 2. And then 3, I do think, even though they're stupid loaded at the tight end position right now, I think Oscar Delp's that special. Tight end out of West Forsyth. I do think he is that special. I actually tweeted about him, said I thought he was the best 2022 tight end in the state of Georgia, and it's loaded. Holden Stage, Jack Nickel, a whole bunch of guys from the state of Georgia. I think there's an Ohio State commit up in there that I'm forgetting the name of. So there's like 4 or 5 guys, maybe even longer list. There's a guy down there at Lee County that I interviewed that's going to be – I'm so bad with these names. There's so many names at this point. I'm an hour and 5 minutes, and I'm a little fried mentally. So many names in the tight end position in the state of Georgia, and I tweeted I thought he was the best because I do think he's the best. I immediately got a text from an SEC coach that he's not just the best in Georgia. I think he's the best in the country. So I'm not the only one there. I think he's that special. And these tight ends that they're recruiting, they're not really tight ends anymore. They can go anywhere. I mean, they are. I mean, Oscar Delp, if you told me 3 years from now he turned into a Kyle Pitts-esque type of football player, I wouldn't be shocked. I would not. I mean, if you told me in 3 years Oscar Delp's running 4.48 or 4.41, and he's got an incredible wingspan, put together a great college career, would not be shocked. Same thing for Pierce Sperling in the tight end in the 2023 class. That kid's going to be a freak. He is a freak. I'm good there. All right, folks, I am out of here. Sorry if I missed your questions. Hit me up on Patreon. We'll get it for you. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Before you leave, hit that thumbs up button. And I appreciate you guys for being here, man. Patreon guys, I'll get a film breakdown for you Wednesday. Hopefully it'll be a little longer than the Nylon Morissette video we did, Sunday. But, when a guy's highlight tape's only 4.5 minutes, I ain't going to spend 30 on it. You know what I mean? Instead, I'm going to spend 22 minutes on it. Appreciate you guys for real, though. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin. I'll keep on it, keep plugging it over and over and over again. Not my opinion, the opinion of the, patrons themselves. Best $10 you overspend. Okay. Best $10 you overspend. Even though pub subs, some things really do hit though. You'll get it if you get it. If you don't, you don't. All right. We'll see you guys.